Now, interestingly, there is a test that CanStar, one of the many comparison websites, has got out there, and because I've named them, they've got their free publicity that they wanted. But supposedly, quite a significant number of people under the age of 30 have pretty poor financial literacy. Now, I think all of us would agree that this is something that probably extends a little further up the chain than just people under the age of 30. Now, I'm not entirely sure what is being covered in schools, but all of the stuff that is being covered in schools, Barnaby, financial literacy, the concept of literally, I know stories, and I think you may know even who I'm talking about, but please don't say whom, that when they were negotiating with a certain member of the upper house, not Pauline, they had to explain what a surplus and a deficit was. This is somebody who made it all the way towards a Senate, let alone people about profit and loss. And as we see with the Greens, their policies are based not off the difference between turnover and profit. They think that's the same thing, let alone how to write it, how to balance a checkbook, how to pay off a credit card, how not to get stuck in the mud on a payday loan. This stuff has to be dealt with by someone, and while we would all love somebody to have more responsible parents, there are lots of people who are just as bad as their kids with money.
Well, look, as an accountant, I have practiced as an accountant for 20 years, yeah, it's amazing. You arrive down here, because you've got so many people who are ex-staffers or ex-union officials or have never really had a business. There's so few people in Parliament now who actually run a business, who actually were farmers, who actually were bricklayers or plumbers, who actually had a business. Then the concept of how you actually make money and spend money, how precious it is and hard it is to make, and how you have to be incredibly prudent about how you spend it, it's kind of lost, to be quite frank. And, you know, you can see it permeates not just through members of Parliament, but if you can find me a forward estimates, well, with estimates, ladies and gentlemen, they take you 4 years out. And they say, oh, this is a predicted budget and surplus this year, this is the surplus or deficit next year, and forget about 2 years out. After that, it's patently absurd, okay? You're lucky if you get the one they actually talked about in the year you're actually in, because obviously it finishes at the end of the financial year. And surplus or a deficit, yeah, people just don't know. That's the profit and loss of our nation. It's quite simple. If you bring in more money than you spend, you got a surplus. If you spend more money than you bring in, you got a deficit. And how do you fund a deficit? Well, you borrow the money. Borrow the money from the Middle East, from China, from other parts of the world, from Australians. And then you say to your kids, well, you can try and pay that back. And this is something I've been banging on about all the way back to Kevin Rudd. I've a great concern about people who get themselves into too much debt, because it's a sad idea when someone turns up to change the locks and you say, why are you doing that? And they say, don't worry about it, just make sure you're on the outside of the house when we do it.
Yeah, I mean, Pauline, it feels like that there are many things that our education system has strayed from, and be it grammar, be it financial literacy, be it basic civics, that because either all of this is deemed to be unfashionable, deemed to be old school, or is replaced by sort of, you know, the layers of becoming a good future green. These are some basics that we all understood or had a version of, but it seems like the modern education system doesn't reflect at all.